Hello, hello. Welcome back to Navigating the Shift. I hope you had a good week. We are catching up today, and the thing that we thought we would focus on is the eye thing. You've probably
the all-seeing eye.
Yeah, you've probably seen lots and lots of images and how young teenagers are being very much influenced by this, and you're wondering where it's come from and why it's being spread. So we will talk about that as our main topic today. Before we do, though, let's just do a bit of an update of things that have happened since the last videos. Sarah, you had something to start with, didn't you?
Yeah, I was thinking, the Notre Dame fire, we did do a video about that, and we were mostly sort of looking at the conspiracy sort of side of it. And going further into it, I came to some thoughts myself and also found some other sources of these thoughts, that Notre Dame being this female symbol within the church, that it's been distorted, and that this burning down has actually signaled an end of that negative energy, and that it would purify perhaps what you could call the nasty satanic stuff that went on in there underground or whatever in the church. It was actually a purification for the church. Mm-hmm. And recently, a client of mine sent me a link to a woman who is channeling Dolores Cannon, who has passed away, but she's the person who created QHHT, Quantum Hypnosis Healing Technique, which is really a great technique to do past lives and to talk to your higher self, too, which is always a good chat. And she also channeled Nostradamus' work and translated it. You've read those things more than I have.
They're great books. They're really good. There's three books together, and they they basically explain all his quatrains, because they were so hard. He made them so difficult. None of us could ever figure them out. Nobody figured them out in 500 years or something. So he finally explained them. They were good books.
Yeah. So the woman in the video that I was linked to, it was channeling Dolores Cannon, and said that she and the soul of Nostradamus were twin flames, and they both are keepers of wisdom and have worked together in lives, but also separately. That's why she was able to connect with him and channel with him. They're very close souls. From this channeling was that, just like what we were saying, that this had to do with a breakdown or destruction of the old, distorted negative energy against the sacred feminine, and the beginning of a whole new era. And a couple of interesting coincidences was April 15th, date of the fire, was Dolores Cannon's birthday. Okay. And if she'd been alive, she would have been 88. And 88 in numerology is one of those master numbers, and it has to do with the end of the old, the whole beginning of a whole new era. And I thought, okay, universe, if that's really an appropriate or correct interpretation of what happened there on a really deep spiritual level, confirm the 88. And within 2 hours, I'd seen 3 88s from various places. It's like I look at a video and the guy has 88,000 followers. And it's like, oh, okay, thank you. Yeah. So interesting, looking deeper at things, I think, helps us also just to not get caught in the drama.
Yes, yeah. I think that after we did that video on Notre Dame, there was actually a piece that I picked up. I don't think we put it in the video, but it was somebody who'd been through a QHHT session, actually, and they'd gone through the ordinary session. They got right to the very end where they were about to wake the client up. I don't think they call patients in hypnosis, but a client. And before they woke up, they said, the Notre Dame thing, it's finished. And the therapist said, what do you mean? The church is finished. Like, what do you mean? And they said, the whole, the feminine, it's time for the feminine to rise. It's a new thing. So there you go. It sort of sounds similar. I know it's QHHT. It's a Dolores coming through different people. Who knows? You go. But you start looking for, like you're saying, you start looking for confirmation. You don't just rely necessarily on one thing, unless your intuition's telling you absolutely what the answer is as to whether this is correct or not.
Right.
It's
always a great idea to try to say, okay, if there's a positive outcome, is there a positive reason for this, or what's right about this that I don't get yet? do that. One of the ones that an example I have was when a bunch of whales watched ashore here in the U.S. and died. And people were very upset and distraught. And I looked at it and I said, what's going on? And the answer I got eventually was that whales and other cetaceans were carrying a certain frequency for the planet. And that because the humans were supposed to, but we were unable to because we've been taken down so low. And because humans are regaining that ability to hold that frequency, a very loving and joyous frequency, that they didn't have to be here anymore and they were ready to go on to a different incarnation somewhere else, which is a nice thing. It's like, okay, and they left their bodies there and also to sort of wake people up a little bit, like, things are going on in the planet.
Clean up the ocean. Yeah, that's right. Those all have to be added in, don't they? Yeah, there's always, you can't look at things as being good and bad, right? Everything is movement, isn't it? It moves. Or it happens for a reason, like you're saying. There must be a good reason for it to move us in the right direction.
There can be some bad things that happen, but ultimately I believe our planet is on the path, a really positive, we're locked onto a really good timeline to a positive future.
Absolutely.
And just, hang on to that. Don't get stuck in the details.
Indeed. One other little thing was Isaac Kappy. I just wanted to drop that in there. That I think that was Monday. They said that he did this hour-and-a-half video. Now, he is an actor, Hollywood actor, who started outing several years ago. Very high-profile people in the Hollywood film industry who he said that they were pedophiles and they needed to be caught. I don't think any of them have been arrested yet. And his life was put in danger, and he was really treading a fine line. Corey Feldman was another one who had been a child actor and gave a first-hand account of these pedophiles. On Monday, Isaac Kappy was found to have apparently thrown himself off a bridge and died. And in his final video, and he actually literally came on and said, "This is my final video." He did not seem like a suicidal person. He looked like a very serious person. Then he said he'd made a terrible mistake and
we don't know what his terrible mistake was.
No, but he compared himself to Judas. He said Judas loves Jesus and it was just ego and not paying attention and all these things that led him to betray. That's what he felt, that he'd done something similar to that. Now, what leads a man to throw himself off a bridge when he doesn't look suicidal, I'm assuming would be a threat that other people will be hurt. He stated
directly, "I am not suicidal." But, the voice of God technology where they can put voices directly into your head, who knows? He said, "I thought I was a good man, but I was a bad man." He was not a calm or a balanced or centered person. I think he was probably pretty troubled.
I think so.
If you're in Hollywood,
you're bound to be troubled.
You would be, right? But I don't know. There's a whole lot of chit chat going back and forth. Oh, was he suicided? Did he really kill himself?
There was a little thing on the video that he was watching the chat going past as he was filming, and somebody put "blink twice if you're under duress," and apparently he blinked twice. So yeah, I'm wondering if it's more along the lines of someone saying to him, "We're going to kill all your family if you don't jump," or something along those lines.
Wow.
So
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, it's just discussion, I think, on the groups. But
bottom line, rest in peace, Isaac. I hope you find some peace where you are now.
That's it. And if you were outing people that deserve to be outed, then thank you for your contribution.
Couldn't have had. Don't think he had an easy life.
No. Okay.
All right.
Well, let's move on to the eye thing. Shall we talk about the
eye thing?
So the reason this came up is that
show your shirt. You've got
I didn't even think about it. Look at this. This is from Spain, actually. This fabulous by Paramita. It's a little girl chained to her phone. I thought this is just very appropriate for modern times, but I didn't even think about the fact that we were going to do the eye today. So there you go. I just got an eye that we.
Lovely.
Very appropriate. Right. So you want to do an intro for us?
Okay. So these ancient symbols are powerful, They were not originally negative. That's what's important to know. Don't get triggered because now the dark side has taken these powerful symbols and misused them. Numerology is not evil. The Ajat Eye, Wajat Eye, the all-seeing eye was not originally evil. Neither were so many other symbols that have been used. So I did some research into looking at what's the story about the all-seeing eye, the myth around it, so to speak. And I believe that the story is not really talking about like gods and humans experiences, but it's more speaking of changes in eras or changes in the evolution or the period of time that we're in. Similar to the story of Moses coming down with the commandments and of seeing them worshiping a
golden calf. Mm-hmm.
Right. And he got very mad about it. And that was a coded message that we are out of the age of Taurus going into the age of Aries,
Indeed.
Which was about 2000 BC, a little bit more. And then, coming into Jesus, coming around in Christianity, the age of Pisces, and now we're heading into the age of Aquarius. Mm-hmm. So the Wajat Eye or Ajat Eye is the eye of Ra. Now, Ra is a name for the sun god, but it's not the only name for the sun god. I got this information from a book called The Land of Osiris by Stephen Meller, Mehler. I'll put it down below.
I've heard that one.
He spoke with quite a bit with an ancient wisdom keeper man whose name is Ebed el Hakim. Mm-hmm. He's Hakim has since passed away, but in the morning time, the sun is called Kepper, Kheper, and that's the symbol is the scarab beetle, and they call him the driller. Getting up and starting the day. Noon, midday is when Ra comes in, and Ra is considered the phrase with him is the stubborn. After that. Early afternoon, you have Un, O-O-N, and Un is the wise. Mm-hmm. And then after that is Aten, which is the wiser. You might remember Aten was the version of the sun god that Akhenaten brought out because everybody were worshiping Amen.
Right, Akhenaten, was he the one that set up his kingdom away from where everybody else was, and then as soon as he died, they kind of tried to wipe it all out and take everything back to where it was?
Right. Yes, in Amarna. And he was also the one who had those images of him where he looked really weird with the pot belly and the long head. All of those things. That was him. So the fifth of the sun. So, Amen is at late afternoon to evening. And then at the end, or Aten, sorry, Amen is when the sun has been eaten again by the night sky Nut. And that's when they call it, all the light has disappeared. The people are filled with greed, fear, and darkness prevails.
Ooh.
And evidently, we're at the end of the Amen period. So I think if Akhenaten was trying to pull the people out of that darkness, and once he passed away, they went right back to Amen, which was by then the priesthood had gotten pretty
powerful,
pretty wicked.
Yeah. Sounds familiar. This is back in ancient Egypt, so it's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah. So when people think of ancient Egypt, most of us think of the dynastic period, going back to, 3000 BC or something like that. And by the time we got to there, they were already in an older, a less wise, less, they'd already degraded. There's a word for you, degraded. Mm-hmm. Ancient times. I mean, there's lots of proof for this now. For instance, the Sphinx shows evidence of water damage, of being aged by rainfall, massive amounts of rainfall. And there hasn't been rainfall in that level in there for at least 10,000 years. Right. So it's got to be older than that. So that's part of it. And the wisdom keeper guy, Hakim, speaks of an ancient time where there was an older river that ran east to west, or I guess west to east, across what's now the Sahara.
Wow.
And what's left behind are just 5 oases in the area. And this was the very, very ancient culture, civilization. Now, for me personally, I've always been totally into Egypt, even as a kid. I mean, I still have a report I wrote when I was 10 or something like that.
You hoarder.
Yeah, it was just because it was Egypt, and I don't keep that much, but I have channeled Al-Razu, who is called Osiris. So Osiris was a Greek name for him. So ancient Egypt was Kemet. So the Kemetian name was WZR. Like Hebrew, Egyptians don't have vowels. So Wizard. The land of Osiris, the book I'm talking about in Egyptian, is Bu Wizard, land of Osiris. And when I read that, it blew my mind, because when I was talking to Arazu, he said, this is a name that more matches me energetically as a being, a disembodied being. And it sounded like Awazu. But, I didn't want to be going like, oh, you got him up the wazoo there. So it's sort of half between a W and an R. So I went with the Arazu. But then when I saw Bu Wazir, I'm like,
it's a W.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, you know? So I've also gone with Isis to underground places, caverns underneath the Sahara, in visualizations, shamanic type journeys, and explored the water there, the feminine energy of water and the masculine energy of water and things like that. So I have a lot of spiritual kind of background in this stuff that confirms that this is way older, and it was way different than the period of time when the patriarchal period that most people think of as Egypt, because historically,
which was the last 5,000 years, right? Yeah. So
historically,
from about
it was
2000 BC.
More matriarchal.
Right.
Earlier. The symbol for Isis is a throne. So, hey, that tells you something. She had the queen, who was the pharaoh, and her consort.
Right.
More like that. So, any rate, so the story of Ra was that Set attacked him and plucked out his left eye. But Thoth magically brought him a new one and made it whole again. So what it means, the Ajat or Wajat means whole one. Nothing scary or bad about that. Very powerful symbol representing, it's also called the Eye of Providence, which means a spiritual being, a wise one, God, is looking over you and taking care of you. So that's the original intent of it, is that you are being watched by the gods and cared for. And so I know you did research too.
I did.
What did you learn?
Well, from the Egyptian side of things, when we look at the Eye of Horus and the shape of that, which we'll put up on the screen right now, is very, very familiar. Everybody is familiar with it. And yet what most people don't realize is that if you take the cross-section of a human brain, all the parts match it exactly. So the idea of the Eye of Horus being the all-seeing eye, the eye that sees everything, whether it was mythological or whether it was real kings and queens from this matriarchal time, or whether they were simply metaphorically showing you that an all-seeing eye is inside everybody. Everybody has one of these. Originally, it used to be the size of an eyeball. It's now shrunk to the size of a pea because we don't use it. We don't use it that much.
You're talking about the pineal?
Yes, the pineal gland, which looks like a little pine cone. This is the point. The pineal is apparently where our intuition it comes in. It's like a little portal for us. And the more you use it, the bigger it grows. And so this idea that if everybody has this, it's kind of like the greatest secret in history, in modern history, that we don't understand that. We are taught from the time we're born that you listen to your parents for advice, you listen to your school teachers for advice, you listen to the police, you listen to the church, you listen to everybody else.
Doctor.
Yeah, the doctor for advice, right? Rather than tuning in. Nobody ever says to you, well, how do you feel about that? What's if you tune inside, what's the answer you get? Nobody will teach you that unless you've got an enlightened parent. And so we forget that we have the key, the doorway to all knowledge within ourselves. And if you start using that and you teach little kids to use that, they become incredibly powerful. So if this Eye of Horus is meant to be symbolic of the universal Christ as well, then this is another thing where we talk about the second coming of Christ is not necessarily that bloke called Jesus is going to come back, but that Christing is coming back around the world, and that we are waking our pineal glands up. And this second time round with the return or the second coming of Christ is coming to everybody who is open to it. Whether we can get everybody to do that, I'm not sure.
It's just made me think Christ means anointed one. Yeah. Right.
Anointed, or Messiah. I thought it was enlightened.
Anointed. There was oil anointment or something like that.
Okay.
And it made me think of, let's see, who wrote about this? Tom Kenyon channeled Mary Magdalene. And he was talking that Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, whatever their names were, Jesus and Mary, did tantric type power building things. And he showed what we see so much of is the snakes coming up through their, snakes of energy, not real snakes, going through the chakras, going up. And then at the top, the cobra head comes around like this. And at the end of it that's where the pineal is. And the idea is you draw the energy up, and then there's actually an elixir or an oil that is produced, if you do it right, that drips in there. So that just made me think, the anointing, maybe you're anointing your third eye, which is, the pineal.
Okay. I knew about the Tantra exercise. It didn't occur to me that Jesus and Mary would have been doing it. It's probably yet another reason as to why the disciples were so jealous of her and determined to get rid of her, which is why she escaped to the south of France after the crucifixion. Yeah, fascinating stuff. Okay, so the eye comes up in other cultures as well, and whether how they're all interlinked, we don't have all the details, but there clearly is a link between them. So if we look in India, there's the eye of Shiva, which when opened destroys everything it sees, meaning that it destroys all ignorance. And you cannot be evil in front of this eye because it sees through it. It sees all the way through it. So when people wake up their pineal gland, they become more psychic. You cannot lie in front of them. You cannot try and fool them because they will not be fooled.
Right.
And the impression I have is of the new children that are being born after 2012. These are the new, I don't know if they're new race or new species. They are totally different programming from us. They're not like a software upgrade. They're like completely new hardware. They can do stuff that we can't do. And our job at this age is for us to simply hold the platform steady, right? So that they can grow into their fantastic gifts that they have. And you cannot fool them. You look at the new babies. You cannot lie in front of them. They can see exactly what's going on.
The symbol of the single eye is universal. I mean, Buddhism, you've got the eye of the world in Middle East and Asia. Yeah.
They put these on the hand,
Hamsa. Yeah, the Hamsa.
On the hand.
It looks like a hand. And like Jainism uses that symbolism. Mm-hmm. And also there's the stuff in the Aztec and Mayan culture as well. And often with snakes, which is no coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember, did you ever see about that black pyramid that glows in the dark?
Yeah, and 13 levels of bricks. There was something interesting in that, wasn't there? So now we're going to connect back into modern times now and look at the $1 bill in America.
Now, I just want to go back to our founding fathers who were often Masons, right? All of them. And I don't believe they were negative. I don't think the Mason organization originally is negative, nor do I think the majority of the members are negative. I think there's, like a lot of things, there are a few bad guys at the top, and the rest of these organizations in the bottom have no clue.
Or maybe originally all of them were good guys, you might say, that they were interested. In fact, I've been reading also about how the early Freemasons were determined to bring knowledge and freedom to the people and get rid of the control of the monarchies and the church. That's the impression that I had of the early Freemasons. And that was to do with Illuminati as well. The illumined ones, the ones that were enlightened, were trying to get the information out to free the people. So a lot of these groups have been sabotaged over years, over centuries, and taken over and changed their direction.
So if you think of the Great Seal, which you can see here, we'll put it in, it has that pyramid, 13 layers with the eye and the triangle at the top. And if the people who designed this were looking at it not as the evil eye, but as something to protect you from the evil eye, you could say, as something that represents wisdom and providence and all of that stuff, they want that to be looking down over the 13 layers or colonies of the country.
That's it. Yeah, that was the original idea. However, because it's now been taken over and flipped to completely the opposite, as they've done with many other symbols. You take a look at the 5-pointed star, where the main point points upwards. Right, was to do with good things, the feminine and all the rest. And when they flip it upside down, the witchcraft becomes black magic. Similar has happened here. They haven't literally flipped the symbol upside down, but they've taken over and started using it in terms of control of the world. So if you look at the $1 bill that came out in the 1930s when the Federal Reserve took over, their whole point, you'll see here, is the pyramid with the eye and the Latin words over the top saying New World Order.
It's different.
It's very different, that's right. And I guess you could say the tech giants as well, whether they were part of the big plan or just seemed to take advantage of what was going on there, is that they have become the all-seeing eye. Everything you do now is recorded and listened to and kept as information to be used against you if need be, or for whatever other reasons. They have total control.
And that's the distortion of that symbol that they want us to buy into, which is we see everything you do. You can't get away with anything, and we're all powerful. We're all doing it. Why do all the actors and musicians, cover the eye and all this stuff all the time? We're in the club, so they want to push it, their version of it. So
now being in the club, being in the club has got to be part of that. And when you look at the musicians, the singers, and the film stars, when they're doing that eye thing, all right, this is them not only showing that they are part of the club, whether they talk about literally selling your soul to the devil in order to gain fame and fortune, whether they did that and have become part of the Satanist cult. I don't know if that's completely linked, but this whole eye thing, the fact that now they're doing it so much out in the open, it's not even a secret symbol from a secret society. They are teaching our teenagers and our kiddies that that's what you do, man. If you want to be in the club, that they're essentially indoctrinating these kids into the worst of society.
And what can we do? From my point of view, I think the number one thing that we can do is every time we see that symbol is to choose to see it in its positive meaning. Don't buy into it being negative.
Okay.
Every time you see somebody doing that, they're like, oh, the eye of providence, wisdom, wholeness, I'm being cared for by the universe. Thank you.
Okay. All right. My view, I would do it, is to say I'd be more the angel with the sword. The archangels wander around with the sword and say no.
Well, see, if you say no, you're saying, okay,
resistance.
This is their truth. This is true what they're saying, that this is evil.
No,
the symbol
not
is
truth.
evil.
I'm kind of more saying I understand what you're trying to do and you're not fooling me. No. In that way. So it's slightly different. I will not be fooled. I will use my little pineal and say, I can see what you're trying to do and you're not going to indoctrinate me into that. Yeah. And the more people you can explain that to, when you see them doing that symbol because they think it's cool because Beyonce does it or Lady Gaga does it, if you can explain to them what they're actually doing and that maybe that's not what they should be agreeing with, take a look, do your homework. Maybe we can enlighten more people into understanding what these people are trying to do.
I would hope that people would, remember that the original intent in so many of the symbols and things really was beautiful and positive.
Can we flip it back to that eventually? Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Let's just keep seeing it that way. Every time they say this is evil at me, I'm going to go, oh, this is wonderful. This is good. Mm-hmm. This is love. This is wisdom. This is being cared for by the universe. Sounds good to me. And each time, and because it's everywhere, that's a constant reminder to me to hold that thought, to hold that belief, and have that intent.
And make
the universe is here to take care of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm being cared for. The angel to take care of me. My soul family is here. All of that.
Yeah, I like that.
That's pretty powerful work.
It is. It is. Don't idolize these actors and singers. Don't idolize them. They're humans that have been fooled, and you don't need to be fooled. You can flip this around and make it more positive.
All righty.
Okay, that'll do.
There you go.
Okay, click the like, share it around. Bye.